here,
In
so
Lake
we don't
Country.
wanna be just over, I'm sorry, I'm frustrated.
Well,
I don't wanna be
bury
overpopulated.
us in the grave.
I don't wanna be overpopulated and can't get in and out of my own neighborhood.
We don't need
Hang on,
more.
everyone. Just please allow him just to finish.
Let him finish the presentation. Let's give him this 1 minute.
He's heckling.
So what did you rent these for versus what?
It could have been nice.
Let him finish first, please.
Let him finish his presentation.
Let him finish.
This is the way they do this in the other.
He needs to finish. I mean, we need to listen to him. Why not? That's what we invited him
This
here for.
community, we
Okay, sorry.
believe in the product, and we're putting it.
I'm
right next
frustrated
to
as you. I'm gonna let him
for
finish.
sale product. You know, the next project, this is an existing project as well, where we've taken the challenge site, like the property that we're talking about, and we've done some creative things with it. And I'll kind of explain those on the next slide. Don't switch this yet. But this is 396 homes on 66 acres. When going to the next slide, we took, 66 acres that was complete floodplain, and we developed 35 acres. And so this was not a part of the city of Fort Worth. We annexed into that property, so we created a tax base that wasn't there currently. In the city of Fort Worth, we dedicated 7 acres of park to that. We funded city streets to improve things like infrastructure, connectivity to an existing neighborhood. Those things were lacking. And I think when you look at infrastructure in the area of Lake Country, there are things that this development will do that we'll have to do and that we're also offering to do to improve some of those things. Those things are in the work. I promise we'll get to every question that I can tonight. And so this project itself has just here recently been nominated as the real estate deal of the year by the Dallas Business Journal. May not. Well, I say that because I want to establish the fact that we stress quality, and I think that is emphasized in what we do, and it's being acknowledged. And so we're not coming in here to do a lackluster job on this project. We want to come in and add quality to an area.
So you're gonna be living there?
What's that?
You're gonna live there?
I'm not going to go ahead.
I would live there.
Really? Well, they look as good in 40 years as my house does down on.
I believe so.
Will they look as good in 40 years as my house does down on Randall Road?
That's right. And I think so. And I can
Really?
Absolutely. And I can tell
You
you
think
that.
that's $20 just
That's right, ma'am, we can't have that tonight. So we're all here for a civil discussion, okay? He's not an evil guy, just let him talk. He said he'd answer your questions, but don't attack him.
I think she has a
No
nice
reason.
question.
Yeah.
Give him a chance.
We're looking at real property in our community. I think she has a valid question.
So I understand, but he's asking just to give a presentation, just allow him some time, please.
So I think that to answer your question, a lot of single family, the problem with single family that is rental by just the landlord is its own separately. So what you find in the community a lot, or just rental property in general, is that there's one landlord may own a couple of houses or something like that. This is a part of an investment portfolio that will be professionally managed and has a substantial capital investment to make sure that year 40 looks good. And so I think the question about, I was talking about master plan communities. Well, when I look back at a community that's 40 years old, that has the same imprint, the same CC&Rs, the things that we established and set up, those are important because that's what we do and that's what we do best. And so when I look at what is the property going to go for 40 years, I'd love to say it's going to look exactly the same. I don't know, but I will say what we do is this, and what we do is put that good imprint into that community so that it can look its best after 40 years. So these are some of the examples of you'll see some elevations and renderings of the product. This again is the product that faces the green court. We'll show you a site plan here in a second that kind of highlights those types of areas. We're looking for diverse architectural materials as well. You're going to see some of that. You're going to see, this is, again, it's a little different than multifamily, and just because that's the comment that you made. These are single-family detached homes. And they do all have garages. That's very important to us. And there are other groups that do not, but we do have a one-bedroom proposed for this that's optional. You may or may not do it, but we think there's value for that. The 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, all have 2-car garages, and so do the 4 bedrooms.
Just an accurate representation of what they will look like in this community, because the
Yeah.
ones you're mentioning are not.
What?
The other communities you're
Right.
mentioning in these more affluent upscale areas are
No,
not.
this is I'm going to back up one. So this is, sorry, which one? That's Cedar. So if you go back down to, keep going, sorry. So this is the amenity center. This is we'll have a pool, an amenity center. We most likely would have 2 here, 2 pools. But a gathering space. This is Frisco Fields, the one that we were talking about. These are actual elevations that have all been approved by the city for this field. Correct. So we have, our 1 bedrooms are 721 square feet, going up to 1586 is,
Even 4 bedrooms that look like a small home that are, just under 2,000, about 1,800 square feet in those homes.
right.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's just our range of products. These homes are.
This product, the maximum home size is 1469 and it's 2 stories.
Sure.
That's right.
You keep referencing everything as a product. As a community here, we don't care about your product, we care about our lifestyle and the community that we live in.
Right. You're right. And so
What's the average, square footage that you said on these cottages, not those are the ones that you find in the country?
yeah, so the average is right at 1180.
For a 1 bedroom,
No. It's the average.
so for one, you said 1 bedroom and more.
721 for 1.
So, yeah, so we're looking at 360 facilities or your product.
It's not 360.
Okay, what is the maximum amount of
So we're
quote
capping,
unquote units?
so we're capping at 319.
Okay, 319, so average family home or membership, I don't know, I'm trying to talk to y'all about it. So the average amount of people that will occupy that is gonna be basically 4 people. So you take 4 people and you multiply it by 3, what do you get? You're smart, you figured it out. And that's how many more people are gonna be
So
in
the
our
number of
community.
bedrooms, which is a way that I find it easy to think about it, is about 750 bedrooms, for those 319 homes. So that is about the number of people you could anticipate.
I understand, I'm not.
Will your lease require them to park their cars
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so that's
in
being
the garage, or can they use the garage for storage?
So it's difficult to manage, I will say, it's part of our
It's not on the lease,
management.
you,
Yeah.
you could specify.
Absolutely.
Or what would be cars up and down the
That's
street?
right.
And we have done that on other projects, like our project in Cedar Hill, which we were showing renderings of. We did write that into.
Saw your wife
the
taking your
street
spot,
of the
too, last
neighborhood, to have residents not be allowed to park on the street, to store their belongings in their garage.
I don't think that people are worried about
Yeah, go ahead.
how great your homes are,
We have not purchased.
how big or how nice they are. They can care about what's gonna do to our neighborhood.
Yeah. Same thing when we did it.
I know, yeah.
No, I think that's legitimate. We have not zoned the property, we have not done one, I will say that. I think that's,
So, all that you're saying is enforcement,
Yeah.
it's just speculation.
yeah, I've only got like 3 more slides. So task force at 7. We have 28.8 acres of shared open space, 65-foot setback. We're gonna go through a few things on the site plan that we've done to improve that and make sure that we're being good neighbors. We do have 1 and 2 stories. We talked about that a little bit tonight. And all of the attached garages and private yards from each home is a major feature and a difference between us and multifamily. These are important that we highlight those two things. So this is the proposed case that you guys have all seen, the site plan. So this is 318 homes. We do have 2 pools for this property, a single amenity center, and as you can see, we have the green court and stuff like that. So what we've heard from the opposition, was that?
Amenity center, we're actually going to move this, so it will no longer be right here at that Lake Country. Stealing your thunder.
You're stealing my surprise. No, that's okay. I mean,
But that is one of the current locations, and then this is the second amenity center, which likely will be shifting as well.
Right. So, a couple key elements, we've got really beautiful nature area there. We're gonna try to keep a lot of the topography. We are not a flat tabletop developer. When you go look at walls and things like that, we use the topography. It's important. We don't want to take away from that. We're not trying to build a community on a flat piece of ground. We like these challenges. I brought up the one, the Dallas Business Journal nominated us for single family real estate deal of the year. The only reason I bring that up is because that property was challenged. We took on the challenges, and this one is the same. This one has topography. This one has traffic. We hear it, we see it. I think we have a solution. It's not shown here yet. That we're working really hard to do something there that will help. It's not gonna solve it. I promise you, it's not gonna solve it, but it will help, and it won't add to it. And so we are looking at making some changes. I think where existing homes are, this is Plan North, the top of the page. We put a street there. We've got that setback so that it calms that. We can do additional enhanced landscaping so that you're not. I know those people that live in that are probably pretty upset about the view that they're going to lose. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I think I got one in that home. I hear you. And so what we're going to do, the best that we can, is pull that back off the property line, and we're going to landscape it. And we're going to work with that street and say, what can we do? And we want to listen. We are here. I promise you, we're here to listen. We may not be able to answer every question, but we're here to listen. So when we look at this, we have, just give me one more minute. This is real quick. Yeah, so we've got an entrance currently shown on this site plan on Lake Country.
Good luck.
And this one right here on Boat Club. So we understand. Yeah, absolutely.
10 minutes ago, I never
Like
heard
curve, Lake Country Drive has a lot of traffic. There's 2 schools. And so when we site plan this is why engagement's important. This is why we want to listen. Because the fact is we heard you on Lake Country. We've driven it. I've done it multiple times during the day to see what it's like. I understand it. And so we are going to put in gates. And I'll show you in a second, a very rough site plan, but that could be very easily an exit only up there on Lake Country Drive, so it doesn't add to the traffic. This is a problem. This is safety. I think the ISD, I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but they were concerned about this one as well. This is far away from the school, like.
So I don't really care about the fix design. By the way, my name is Robert Bertling. I do care bottom line up front, we're already saturated in this area.
Yeah.
We really can't afford any more houses. That's
Right.
what we can talk about. I'm sure you've done things in the past, but it's not really any more houses, any more cars coming down, country or wherever it is.
I mean, again, sure, I hear your point. I will say this. Yeah. Well, I think the wall is clear. What we want to do is invite. We want this to be. I think we have to look at, to your point, land's gonna be developed, and I know that's not the greatest thing to say, but there is land, so we have to be smart in how we develop. Again, this is what this meeting is about. So if we could go past, because I think the next slide is the thank you slide. All right, well, real quick, yeah, because what's important, if you look at tax base, there's no tax base there right now. It's ag land, so there's no tax base. So over this period of the next 5 years, we'll bring $2.2 million in the city of Fort Worth, and $3.4 million into.
We don't get any of it.
We don't get any of it.
We're on the west side.
$800,000 in the municipal service. So that's up to,
That's gonna come back to the homeowners, the renters aren't gonna pay nothing.
that's to your elected officials. And when someone comes in and looks at good community development that we can all work through, but be able to provide those tax-based dollars to improve the infrastructure in that area, we can all collectively hold them accountable. There are elected officials in that scenario. They haven't been.
I mean, we've got the infrastructure here is terrible. Trying to up and down, Oak Road is nearly impossible anymore.
And is there anybody in here who is in favor of this development? Anybody?
Hey, when you pay the full tax that we're gonna have to pay for those people that are moving in there, when they're not.
We just all buy it.
At all, they're just renting.
Make a park out of it.
What's it listed for? Is anybody know?
$2 million.
Is it?
I live, so my house is like borders it, like the second property, so it's like I'm not excited.
Schools, it has to be built from.
Exactly, the landlord. I'm all for capitalism, I'm all for making money, but there's no reason why we should have to pay for the additional children.
Let's go one more slide, just real quick. So we do want to, there's two, I'm sorry, there are two. So this is something, I think we read the opposition, we're really willing to commit to improving the sidewalks and the connectivity. There's crosswalks discussion, we're absolutely willing to connect and commit to dollars and improvement ourselves, not necessarily, we're gonna do the work, or we're gonna give the money to the jurisdiction to do, we're gonna do that work. We're gonna commit ourselves to that. The other thing that we're working on is really a cleanup of a few things so that we can do an exit only off the Lake Country at a gated community. And then we would have two entrances off the boat club, the one on the north, which is Plain East. That one would be right in, right out, gated again. And then this one right here, we are looking at an easement to go through that property, and that would be the main entrance. So if you're coming into the property, you have to
Is that Park
go
Road?
off boat club.
Is that Boston Park?
Yeah,
It's Park Drive.
yeah. Park Drive, I think, yeah.
That was Park Drive, that's from the house going in.
That's called Dead Man's Park.
So we do understand that TxDOT owns, or, you know, is responsible for the boat club, it's TxDOT road. We are looking to them at the future alignment of boat club, which goes straight north from this intersection. So we're able to commit to, if they approve this, a traffic signal or some other measure of improving traffic there.
They're gonna have to widen it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Dedicated
next down right there. Yeah, so we would absolutely have to make intersection improvements to be able to.
You said those are gated communities?
Sorry.
How deep is the gate? How far away from the road is it?
Yes, ma'am. We've talked to the school district and understand their concerns.
And the
We do
fire
understand
department.
that. Yeah. We do understand that. Okay, so right now I'm done, but I will say we are at 7:15, so I got 45 minutes.
Back to something you said earlier. I grew up in a Plans community, not in Texas, elsewhere, okay? And they did the same thing. They had to, everybody who was coming in had to fill out the forms. And, I mean, my parents got in because they had to fill out those forms. You had to be making a certain amount of money. Okay? Then, at some after 20 years maybe, or I don't remember how many years it was, the developer decided to sell the property. Now the new developer or whoever owns it comes in, everything started going down.
Right.
Because the original developer that you are, okay, has a plan, has a vision. The new person comes in, they don't give a crap, they just want to make money.
Yeah, so that's the difference, I do believe that's the difference.
So you're gonna be in charge of this in perpetuity.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say one thing, I'm gonna go, but yeah, we'll probably sell it. And what we tell them to do.
Oh, he's selling it.
This is all. I said, we'll probably sell it.
If I could say why, right? So, I don't know how many lots, I don't know, when I walk
To make
around
money.
the master plan committee, I don't know anything. And it's important, the distinguishing difference there is that what we do in the front, we put restrictions on the property, we put conditions on the property that are enforceable throughout the duration of that, and they can't be changed. Only by the declarant. That's right. Only by the declarant. And the declarant
changes when you sell.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Right.
So how long is your investment on the property?
How long?
She said like in her master plan community was 20 years.
Yeah.
How long do you plan on holding this?
So we
property?
planned 5 years.
My question is,
That was a great question.
Sure was.
How much am I gonna use?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't get paid to be here tonight, so.
Hang on. Please, civil, make civil tonight, please.
Yeah, I still want to go back to the fact that you have to purchase the property. All of us are worried about a new zone now ag and going to something else. You haven't committed to this property, and that concerns me immensely, because this is all a moot point if you don't follow through.
Seth, when's the final plan gonna be approved? When's the final site plan?
So I would love feedback, and one thing I really need to answer your question, so let me do that first, if that's okay. So, we don't typically do that, that's not typical. I understand your concern there. If we get this zone, and we walk away, and we make all these promises, what happens to the next guy that comes in? All I can say is our track record is we don't drop properties that are zoned. I've closed on every one of them, and that's all I can say. We are under contract, we have substantial investment into that contract, and these drawings aren't free. As we go through the process, it's very costly, and we don't want to waste that money. Now, I also don't, I can say I haven't counted heads in here, but I know I had 262 letters of opposition. I want to make sure that we have something that we can develop. If I went back to A5 and had to develop it, we're talking about probably the same amount of population, we're talking about the same amount of traffic, things like that. A5 is right behind this property. And so it will be developed on the north side, yeah. So your question is, when will the drawings be done?
So this is
Well-
the conceptual
Sure.
site plan.
Has the site been engineered yet at all?
Yeah, where I was going, is a follow-up to her question, is really, when is the final site plan gonna be done?
Yeah.
Prior to the zoning?
So if I would have gone in and I had no opposition, just to be honest with you, I would have gotten that site plan approved, and that probably would have caused some problems for y'all, okay? So tonight, and our request for continuance was to work with that group. What we would love to do is say, are there 5, 10, maybe 15 people in this group to be willing to meet with us in 2 weeks and be able to respond to that. And then again, in 2 weeks. If we have to do another continuance, well, let's try to get it right. So I don't know if I can answer that question. When is it gonna be done? Because, look, I don't think I'm gonna get everyone to say, this is great,
Yeah,
but
I just to be clear, is the site plan going to be done before the next zoning?
yes, it will need to be, because it's a part of the approval or deny.
And so
But-
the mineral and all that stuff, the drilling that they have to do to test the land,
Yes.
has that all been done?
So that's not necessarily required for zoning, so,
Right.
but it is for plat,
Right.
right? And so, I think there was a question about the engineering. So I know we've developed a lot. I know the boxes I have to sit. Great, storm drainage, for example. I can't adversely impact downstream conditions. So I don't have a deal that's workable if I do that. Okay, so I don't necessarily, I just know that's the condition I have to live with. Sewer, water, all of those things. If I impact that and cause a problem, drop in water pressure for you, then I'm gonna have to make that improvement in order to make sure that doesn't happen. All of that is.
What about the topography?
What's that? I didn't hear the question there.
What about the runoffs and everything into the
Yeah,
lake?
so-
That's our drinking water.
Absolutely. So the runoff, for example, in this center area, we will do what's called a detention pond. So we're adding impermeable surface. We have to detain that on site because we can't let that amount of water to go off site that's adversely impacting downstream conditions. And so we also will have retention. That's kind of a tricky word to say. We have a pond because it's an amenity and a feature to the development. And so we want that to be a part of that. We want that to have trails around it and be an amenity to the development. Sir?
If I may follow up on that, I'm assuming you're familiar with the ISWIM criteria.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I represent Saving Mountain Lake as well. I'm a resident of
Right.
Lake Country. Our primary concern from that standpoint is the city of Fort Worth only requires the quantity portion of ISWIM to be implemented. That's what you're referring to.
Right.
No more can run off of what used to run off.
Right.
But with the density of homes, the rooftops, the gutters, the curbs, the speed of that water
Yeah.
is going to impact the quality of that water that runs off the roof. The city of Fort Worth unfortunately doesn't implement the quality portion of ISWIM.
Sure.
I would ask you to really consider that as a
Yeah.
key component, because the homeowners right here, in addition, utilize the water. This water also serves millions of people.
Right.
And if we fill this lake with more sedimentation, there's gonna be less of the future. So I think a nice benefit, if this were to be developed, is that you take it a step up from what the city of Fort Worth requires you. Do something extra and do something more. That's number one. Number two, if I may, you mentioned standards that would be implemented. I think that's an important thing to also, I'd like to be able to understand
Okay.
beyond the site plan, I'd like to see that. But what are your deed restrictions? What are the CCRs? What things are going to be put in place to ensure that when you sell this property and move to your next property, I understand that's gotta happen, what requirements, what standards will flow with that property into perpetuity? We have deed restrictions here in Lake County. They travel with the land. What things here are you putting in place to ensure that we have a quality development in perpetuity, not just into, the time that you're there?
Yeah.
And understanding that along with the site plan would help give me a better understanding, as well as understanding what your commitment is to water quality beyond water quantity.
Yeah. Yeah. So address the first question first. ISWIM does have a pretty strenuous program that we understand and follow. There's two stages to that. We know it well. We deal with it in Walsh, we know that well.
Yeah.
And so I do agree. I think we do want to look for, opportunities to improve upon that. And so, again, that's why I think that an advisory type group, hey, what's important to your group? We should look at that. Those are easy to implement, and easy to follow as we go through. Now, as far as the covenants and restrictions, one, it starts with the architecture. It starts with how we develop first. And what is set out there is first and foremost. We can share it with you management plan, and as that kind of cycles up, and we can discuss things that may be there. I don't have necessarily restriction that they have to pay, repaint the homes every 5 years or anything like that. But we do, it will be a single owner, and we will restrict it to that. And so that, it can't be sold individually. So again, it kind of goes back to, see, capital investment, they're being a single owner.
Who's gonna enforce that?
I guess as far as management of the property, it's, the homeowners aren't responsible for mowing the grass. This is, part of the management process.
Parking.
So we can.
Parking,
Parking,
I mean,
right.
there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
can go into it.
So your problem comes with our sacrifice, is what you're saying.
But understand what your standards are expected to be in this
What
site
they're
plan.
really doing.
And how you're gonna impact, try not to impact
Yeah,
things downstream.
Yeah.
Those are the things that
Yeah.
would get more understanding.
Okay.
Do I support this or do I not?
Yeah, yeah, great, thank you for the questions. I'm sorry, yes.
My name's Robin Harris, I live here in Lake Country. What phase are you in as far as the city's concerned?
Sure.
Have you gone with a preliminary plan yet?
We have provided the, PE language, which is the narrative that everyone got in the staff report. We've also provided this plan, which we can amend. That's in the staff report as well. But, so as far as the phase, we're kind of really in phase one.
So you have submitted a preliminary site plan to the city council, or the city board?
Yes, ma'am.
Land use, okay. I'm a retired land use administrator.
Yeah.
Dealt with a lot of master plans, especially in communities. We've knocked down tons of these in different areas of the country. I commend you on having this open meeting, because I don't think there's any board members here, it'd be against the law to have more than 2 board members here to hear what's going on. Because you cannot have a quorum, you know that, you know the law. So that means anybody here has a voice, but cannot make decisions. This was brilliant, because you knew this room was gonna get packed, and these people can't or won't show up at a board meeting. They could, you're preventing them with this sales pitch to talk them into how
We
great
thought they were gonna be.
I don't.
That's
Can
fair.
I finish?
That's
Can I
fair.
finish? So, all of you come up here tonight to voice your opinion, but nobody's hearing you.
Nobody
The
cares.
newspaper, there might be a reporter here that's gonna say 300 people showed up and don't want this, but your board members are not hearing this, so I encourage you to stay on top of this.
I'm gonna answer.
And, can I finish?
No, hang on a second.
I can't finish?
Hang on a second.
Why can't our board?
Yeah, I'm on your side. That's not correct. The city council is not gonna listen just to board members. They're gonna listen to all this.
Where are
They're gonna listen to the 260 letters of opposition. So, no, we're not recording it. No.
Letters of opposition are not admissible in hearings. The secretary can only tell you the 260 opposition
Hang on a second.
letters.
I can tell you, your city
They-
council is listening. He may not be here tonight. He talks to me regularly. I'm gonna give him a report tomorrow of what happened tonight. You have,
It's not legal.
I want to tell you right now, I'm one of your elected officials, and I am here listening right now. I will actually be the court that all these deed restrictions and HOA suits come to.
Are you land use?
I am the judge of this precinct.
Awesome.
Woo-hoo!
I would like to finish, it's been brought up by quite a few people that rental properties are never cared for like a homeowner cares.
No, not.
Amen.
Right?
Right.
Okay? I'm a landlord.
There's no
We're
reason to.
constantly fixing things because people don't care when it's not theirs. How many units are in here? Proposed? Three. Okay, so that's, and you said the average is 35% married couples, so that's 2 cars, that's 750 cars. You said 52% target of children, which is gonna kill our school system some
Yes.
more.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys know at this new school right up here, how many people sit at Boat Club Road trying to get out of Lake Country Estates
10 minutes
every
is fine.
single day? Now, again, 700 cars, and then those people are gonna have kids.
Turn around,
They're gonna move in with a 12-year-old, and 4 years from now, is driving, now you've got 3 cars in the house.
I'm at CVS, the light at CVS wouldn't change.
Yeah. where
It's
are
a
you?
big bond.
The whole reason that they built Lake Country was to alleviate all
It's too
of
very nice. Meeting thing, huh?
So, I know normally major plans, you have some sort of contingency, are y'all even,
Can you speak up a little bit?
yeah, so are y'all even considering a contingency plan of doing single-family homes with bigger lots, bigger homes, more expensive to actually fit into this environment? Because this plan doesn't really fit in with this community.
No.
So are y'all considering that?
We don't want it out.
Have y'all put any plan like this in front of a community this old, of this age?
We have in our own community in Lake Farms.
And how old is that community?
So, no.
Yeah. Like,
No,
45 years.
Lake Farms is 10 years old.
You got a lot of land,
You're
go
adding
further north.
something
We're here. That's
So
right.
does it answer that? Is that contingency?
We as the developer would not develop this for we do believe that it is a good addition to this community. Of course you
Not to anybody here.
You're the minority here.
I'm sorry, was the answer to that no? Is there no contingency?
No, he said they will not do that.
There's no contingency?
No. It's this or nothing.
It's this or nothing?
I'll take her question real quick. I'm really sorry.
How many acres are you talking about now? I know you purchased what, 50 acres, is that right?
We have not purchased.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
so you're planning.
Yeah, they have.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
so how many acres will those houses be on?
There
Right.
is
So
something.
we have
30.
38.8 acres of open
28
space.
acres. Okay, so as a comment on your, is it Litzy Creek?
Yes, ma'am.
So you said you have like 200 homes there
Correct.
and 66 acres.
396.
So that's like twice as much.
It was nearly 400, and the Z it's 396.
Yeah, it's the same, so we use a number that, dwelling units per acre, and so they're similar, so
So how far apart is each house from each other?
10 feet.
10 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
10 feet, so
Right, and that's standard, and I do 10 feet in all.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
with that new school, that new elementary school, to try to get in and out of our schools.
Right.
Not just like the Christian, but the new elementary. And if you've ever been there on a football game, it's, you can't get your way.
Right.
What about the danger
Right,
to our
so,
kids?
that's right, and so, again, we go back to what
Going
plans
to school.
was submitted back to zoning commission, and hearing the opposition, hearing that concern, seeing it with my own eyes. I haven't seen a football game, but I will say, it has adapted, we have adapted the plan as a result of that. And we feel like the traffic circulation that we would propose at this point, and we're gonna finish the site plan soon, we just negotiated that track that gives us the access to do that. And so we will adjust this plan. The quantity of homes is probably gonna be the same. It's like a net 1 acre, so I'm not gonna dwell over the density, but I would say that the circulation is much improved. We would do exit only off Lake Country, and it would be gated.
But will they be able to exit out the entrances also? Or will the
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Yeah, so there would be 3 exits and 1 entrance. That's also an exit.
Oh, we can sit in the.
Okay, that's the second.
Understand where we are in the process.
Sure.
Right now, you have asked the zoning committees to go from agriculture to multi-housing. Is that right?
It is a multi-family based zoning.
That's correct. And they have approved it as they
They have
see
not.
it. According to this, they have.
The staff is recommending
Staff
approval.
is recommended to be approved. And my understanding now is that the next step is to go before council.
No, we would go back to zoning, and I think that's May 11th or 60 days.
If we don't let them change the zoning, all of this other discussion is bullshit, okay?
He's right. I would say, just on that real quick, my ask is, we have 45 days. I understand the concern, but I would love the opportunity to work with y'all further. We got more to do.
Why do you want to be here when we don't want you?
Why don't you build it, you know, further up north? They probably have plenty of land up there. We
It's a
don't.
rhetorical question.
Are these prefabricated structures, meaning, are they built off-site and delivered on the back of a semi-truck, like a mobile home?
No, ma'am.
Are they kits?
No, ma'am.
Are they prefabricated in any way? You're gonna build this from the concept.
Out of what?
No, ma'am. They're conventionally framed, just like everyone's home in here.
Like every other
And you're
track.
talking about the younger market. The younger generations, if you can, eco-friendly developments, you said you like a challenge of putting things where they don't belong. I mean, let's just this is backyard,
Yeah.
clean, this is tired.
No, we think
Well, you
that,
said something earlier, I know you're giving me up in this meeting. I'm trying to say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you did say something earlier. You said for people living in Dallas. This is not Dallas. This is Fort Worth, and not only is this Fort Worth, this is Lake Country. And we have a profound respect for nature, for the lake. Are you going to be marketing this as kind of a lake lifestyle? When your development, quite frankly, is going to diminish that lifestyle, possibly contaminate our lake.
There's no
And
access.
there's really no public access to the lake. So you wanna build by the lake, but give your tenants, what, just the illusion of that lifestyle?
You're gonna tear our lifestyle up.
Yeah, change the name, because it's not part of Lake Country.
Yeah.
thank you. Do that. I was gonna use that as, yeah, I mean.
But like you're going on, these are not prefabricated structures, you're going to build on rocky terrain. You're gonna bulldoze a terrace and build it up from the studs up.
Everything I said.
Look up high.
What's that?
You said you wanted to be more transparent. That's what I said on the record, I just mean.
Do it everybody down below, but nobody high.
No, I understand. And we
Next question over.
I'll say sunglasses.
Texas. My name's Christina Large, and I live immediately behind your property. My house will be up against your new conceptual site plan. So the three questions or the concerns that I have as a homeowner who literally lives right here. The first is, I understand, I've lived here 12 years in Lake Country, and I've been blessed with an incredible view. My concern is not so much the view, it's, I knew at some point construction was gonna come, and I understand that. However, if this goes through, and I'm praying that it doesn't, but I understand what you need and want, we've got beautiful trees that line up the back of Stone Top. So all those trees that you see, that's the west side, right there-ish, that are above the cul-de-sac on the north, that end of the conceptual site plan. We have trees that line that entire street that are protecting our homes from people seeing into our backyards. All of us, probably, all those houses, I'm gonna say 7 of those 12 have wrought iron fences, where we don't have fenced that you can see into our backyards. And I understand you said that you want to use the topography. How are you going to promise me that these trees that have provided me protection and privacy into my backyard, because now people will be able to see directly into my backyard, how can I guarantee that those trees are gonna stay there if you choose this ends up going there?
They're gonna die.
So, I mean, trees will be removed.
Yeah.
All of them?
I will not say that, and we haven't done a recent of that yet. We will be required to do it. The city of Fort Worth, much like Iceland, it was referred to earlier as what's called urban forestry. And so there are requirements not only for us to protect heritage trees as we can, but replacing trees. And I understand we can discuss all day long what replacement trees look like. And, you know, that's part of, again, that's part of the engagement that we would need.
So you're gonna tell me that these trees that have been, and I've only lived here 12 years, so I don't know the extent of the longevity of Lake Country, but these trees have been here forever. I'm gonna cut them out and go plant 10-gallon trees that are gonna provide me no privacy. Are you gonna build me a fence so that now my property that backs up to this lot?
And this is like day one, it's like, look, problem, so we have to make sure that the species is right. And we understand that as well. I would say we would, you know, individually make sure that we speak with them and talk about what trees we put.
So my next question is, the line that goes, so you come across and you go up to that point in the uppermost right-hand corner, that is, the property line cuts down, and all that's where the conceptual site plan is open land where four-wheelers and motorcycles, and there's a crap ton of people that go up in there and hike. So you talk about how you want to create pathways and walkways and whatnot. Are you going to utilize any of that, or how will that be incorporated into that land over there? And will that bring more people to the back of my property that I have to worry about kids coming up and running into the back of the fence and sitting on their buggies?
All great questions. And I think, you know,
That's what I'm saying.
we do
And eventually be out.
Park, that makes sense. And where that makes sense. So if it's not at the corner of our property, that doesn't make sense for you. We need to collectively work through that. We do see an opportunity for trails. I think gating is important, as part of the things that we've heard. So that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But I think those are all things that could be worked through. And we do that all the time. We dedicate parkland. We make sure that those areas that are sensitive, jurisdictional waters here, all those things are.
My last question is, who owns that land? Do you know?
Hills of Lake Country Development does.
Yeah.
It's actually zoned single family, and could be developed, and then be similar to what.
Yeah, A5 is a lot that requires 3,500 square feet per lot. So I mean, the density on an A5, which is that, is definitely, you can definitely achieve the 7 dwelling units per acre with an acre.
So that technically is that something you guys would purchase, or is
No.
that?
No, we wouldn't, but it just again, just a little bit, so this kind of becomes a little bit of a donut around the rest of the development. So it will be developed.
Hills of Lake Country, the thing that owns it, they developed
maybe
already.
not that house.
Still owns it.
Just to clarify, the A5 is 5,000 square feet, it's 50 by 100. You said A5 was 3,500?
City of Fort Worth regulations do allow 3,500 square foot lot at A5.
Only with the PD though.
No, it's in the base zoning.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
On the Park Road entrance, you said you're gonna have an easement through, because you don't own that very end home. That easement would be very close to the existing home. Have you been granted that? How
Yeah,
close?
so that home, what's in negotiation right now, not fully developed, and so that's why we don't have a site plan associated with that. That, we would carve out, and that would be, commercial.
So that home would be taken away? And- Okay.
Yes.
So then my question was, what if you didn't get that easement, was there a plan C? Because clearly going closer to that blind
I
corner.
think we're having very positive, I think that's part of the deal, honestly, at this point. I mean, I think it's really important, and it helps with traffic circulation substantially.
Right.
So it's an important part of the deal for us.
And then you, on I think about slide 2, you said home centered around intimate green space.
Yep.
Yet you've requested a green space waiver below the City of Fort Worth standards, minimum standards.
We're reevaluating that, and we're going to meet the 60%.
Which is pretty much.
Thank you. And then your streets were 24 feet wide. City of Fort Worth standard is 26 feet.
So these will be private roads, these will be gated.
So they don't need fire trucks?
No, 24 foot is a requirement for a private road, fire lane.
So they won't be expanded? Because my question was, if you're forced to expand them, would that then come out of the open space, further reducing this percentage?
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes. But the 24 foot is the requirement.
I didn't, okay, no. Thank
Can I,
you.
the pink shirt? Yes, yes, ma'am.
Seth, right,
Yes, ma'am.
Seth?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay if I call you Seth?
Absolutely.
You can call me Carol.
Okay.
All right, so I have to tell you that I used to ride my horse back there. I did that for years. There are gullies that are 30 feet
Right.
deep.
Right.
You can't, walking trails for people. Nobody can walk down a gully like that. I mean, you picked a really hard place. You picked a place that has a lot of opposition, and I don't see how the land fits at all. I mean, truly, I have ridden back there for years. And you've picked something that is so challenging. I just encourage you to go someplace else.
That was my question about engineering.
I want to just address that real quick, but I would say, yes, we did. We like the challenge. It puts.
Well, we don't want the challenge.
I will say this, and I'm talking to topography. No, I don't like challenge. I don't like necessarily being up here in front of all y'all. But I will say that the challenge does really bring something special. You've seen it in our other.
Not to us. Okay, so when you lived in Lake Country,
Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Mario. I'm co-founder of Nature's Edge Wildlife Rescue. I've got a different dog in this fight, so to speak, and I'm going to ask you some very point-blank questions because your presentation had some very key words in it that make lots of people cringe. And not from this standpoint, from my standpoint. You're talking about a nature side. What is your company's goal and plan for mitigating wildlife impact in an area such as this, that is a heavy traveled wildlife area, as well as Texas's very unique breeding seasons for all kinds of animals? Because I'm sure you're aware, you can't remove trees during bird breeding season because federally protected birds use trees. Right now, it's mammal breeding season as well. We're getting baby owls in. Wildlife rehabbers are not paid by the state. Nobody pays us to do this. And I can tell you, as a wildlife rehabber in this area that is both state and federally permitted, I take a lot of animals from this area. What is your guys' goal with this for mitigation of animal conflict?
Right, so, I remember your question, and from the opposition letters, and so, again, when our goal here is to reach out to people like yourself to work on those plans. We can put those in writing and how we're gonna do those. Am I the best to answer that question? No, but I know that we would have consultants included in that, and, you know, for certain meet all state, federal, and local.
So what is your time frame? Your time frame.
Wants to work with you.
you're missing.
What?
There's a very long process until we would ever break ground.
No. That's I understand that. My question is, what is your projected time frame in the year for breaking ground?
Not determined.
Not what?
No, I don't have that determined.
Okay. So no game plan set. Do you want to break ground in like August?
No, not right now.
Okay. So second question, part two, because somebody else touched on it as well. This comes back to the nature side of it. Trees have to be removed. What is your guys' stance as a company for trees removed versus trees replanted?
Sure. I can use Walsh as an example. We planted part of the tree farm out there. There's 16,000 trees that we planted.
It was blank
Walsh was planted back
It was
in
flat,
early
blank
mid-2000s, so that those trees would come to the project with a bigger caliber day one. So we pride ourselves on the way that we do that, and our approach is in excess of the city of Fort Worth requirements and PD requirements.
I don't care about requirements.
Yeah.
I'm asking what is your company's stance on that?
I mean, that is very.
So is it 1 for 1?
You go put a 10-gallon, I think a 10-gallon tree out there, that's not what we're gonna do.
Right.
And when we, you know, Walsh is a good example. That's important as our core philosophy.
And it was a blank land.
But totally different. You know, but those are the details that.
There wasn't a tree out there when you started.
There's so much traffic on 20, you can't get into Walmart. Have y'all been out there?
Are you guys going to be, third question, just because of the native waterway, are you guys going to be monitoring water quality during construction on that said waterway?
Oh, no.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we will have that for jurisdictional water. Potentially, we don't fully know that, but most often it is. So we would
You only split planes up there because they never inspected me, so.
So again, on that, water and sewer, we would do a sewer study. We would
Because,
tie it.
we're not asking, I'm unfortunate, I have a pump station right now in my front yard. Okay, from the time that Fort Worth took over, my family has lived here since this neighborhood was bought. We built, we've never let, our house has never been sold. Okay, my house smells now of sewage in my front yard because of the extra houses that have been built in this neighborhood. And that pump station, when it was not run by Fort Worth, and it was under our own private constituents, we never had odor.
So the short
And
answer
so
is,
it's only gonna get worse. And when I talk to the pump guys every day that they come down and talk to the pump station, they tell me they can take no more.
This
So how
area
many of you
was
have pump
annexed.
stations in your front yard? And how many of you have City of Fort Worth saying your house is worth $500,000? And would you come buy my house if you smelled sewer? No.
No.
For $500,000?
No.
so
My house is a swamp.
So I have a problem with that.
That's annexation.
I don't work right now, so I'm taking it out of my front yard. You've been ruining my house, my family's house.
I've backed up.
My father died for that house.
I can talk.
That was his legacy, my family.
Never
He
sold.
died at 42 on this lake in that house. So
That's
don't
the
tell
only
me.
thing I can do. The city said, you have to protect your property. They backed up the street
Oh,
underground.
yeah, it will work.
I was driving, I moved in 8 years ago. Yes. This guy doesn't know that we were annexed.
actually,
That when we went to these meetings, we were annexed. It's like,
Hey, I want you to get, I want you to get
after
up
Yellowstone.
take your child to school, and then have to go to work down Oak Club Road, and deal with the traffic, and all the infrastructure's not gonna handle that development. I'm sorry, what?
my son did go to UConn Elementary.
Well, I'm happy he did, you look like a hunter, right? You like a hunter? Yeah, before Lane comes here, I still like to take my kid there, and then I gotta get on Boat Club, and I gotta go to work every day down that, and it takes me forever.
That's important.
Anybody else validate
You
that?
need to listen.
I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yes.
Congestion, we don't need it. I'm not gonna.
What?
How are you going to guarantee market value is going to continue to grow? Those properties will not let my property value continue to go up. You know it is what I do. I've been involved in investments, and investments is to make money, and what you do afterwards, and you sell it, you don't care. So, that is a concern of mine, and the other question is, you said there was a mayor that was speaking.
Correct.
Okay, where's it at, what time?
It's City Hall, it's for planning and zoning.
City Hall, what time?
Or it's zoning, no, I'm sorry.
Let me speak to that.
Can y'all?
Let me speak to that.
Okay.
And I know it's been addressed, but I'm not real clear on it. If this development does go through, which God, I hope not, how many cars are you gonna allow to park on the street? Or is it gonna be a traffic jam?
So we have garages, 2-car garages for these homes. Unless it's a 1-bedroom, then it's a 1-car garage, and it has a parking space inside. We park at.
Are you gonna live there?
So, the city of Fort Worth requires for single families to have spaces per home, and they allow driveway parking. Not all of these have a driveway, a lot of them are alleyways. So there's parking within the private streets within the community, but they would not be allowed to park.
They're brand new homes, they're hard to get rid of.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And so that's why we manage the property. property, but we have extra parking, and we do what's called a zipper street. There's parallel parking designated in the 2020.
Benefited him.
It's right there. It's right here. Yeah, so the zipper street is 24 feet is the roadway, and so the zipper street is the parallel parking all outside of the. So it's different than a residential street where you have 29 spaces face to face, and then people park on both sides of that. So you have 8.5 feet spoken for with those cars. But 17 feet, so you have a drive lane that's 12 feet. So what we're proposing is actually doubling that drive lane.
I sure hope your garages can fit 2 pickup trucks with 2 SUVs.
Gotta be over here.
So if we are successful in opposing their development on this side, what is your plan? Are you just moving down the road?
We have to get this approved, then we would be.
A more receptive location. I think that's the thing.
No, I think this is a great location for us.
For y'all.
What's that? This development, 318.
Guys,
Yeah, go, sir.
Do it.
Go,
Do it.
sir.
I only answer your questions.
Go on down.
It's our only chance. Pick up.
Go.
You can't hear the question.